Yo, what's up everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another Xenoblade Chronicles video. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a look at a theory that I've been talking about with many different people, whether it be in the comment section of videos, on Twitter, or even with the Spawncast guys out there. And that is Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Xenoblade Chronicles Torna The Golden Country, in addition to other games running on Nintendo Switch Pro. What could we get out of this? And this is the rumored Nintendo Switch Pro. This isn't anything that's been confirmed, but what could we see from this? How much better would it look? Would it fix certain issues that the game would have when it comes to performance or the resolution of it? Because there's been plenty of talk back in 2017 and 2018 about the original Xenoblade Chronicles 2 game. And of course, when Torna came out, I don't think many people really tested it to see how things were, but did notice that there was an improvement. So let's first get into Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and what theoretically a Nintendo Switch Pro could do. So before we get into that though, I do think that I need to talk about what my thoughts are, and based on this, based on what I think about what the Nintendo Switch Pro or Nintendo Switch Revision is going to be, that's where I'm basing what the performance of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 would be on a Nintendo Switch Pro. I personally don't feel that the Nintendo Switch Pro is going to be this huge, massive jump. I don't think it's going to be a pocket PlayStation 4 in your hand when it comes to raw computing power, or a pocket Xbox One in your hand. And we're not talking about Xbox One X or PlayStation 4 Pro. I'm talking about the base versions of those systems. So I don't think it's even going to be that powerful. I feel that it's going to be a bit underneath that. I think it's going to be something like, in terms of a boost, a new Nintendo 3DS. So a 2 times or more power boost, just based on just my own personal thoughts and based on the information that we do have. There was the Eurogamer article, there's been discussions that I've talked with multiple times, and the fact that Nintendo would probably want to keep the system somewhat in the same power range so they get all of the same games on the Nintendo Switch Regular and also Nintendo Switch Pro. And if there is a Nintendo Switch Mini, then of course it would run on that as well, with just some nice enhancements to the Nintendo Switch Pro version of the game, or Nintendo Switch Pro Enhanced. But now that we got that out of the way in terms of what I think the Switch Pro is going to be, I can hypothetically speak about how it's going to affect Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna The Golden Country. Now with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, when the game first launched, Digital Foundry did a complete technical analysis on the game, and the results necessarily weren't ideal. You had 720p docked, which is okay for the most part for many people, but the handheld performance is where things kind of suffered a bit. And even when the game was docked, there was frame rate dips. But the biggest issue was the portable resolution and the frame rate at times. You could see the resolution drop down, according to Digital Foundry, to as low as 360p, and the frame rate, when things got a little bit hectic on the screen, dipped below the 30 range. Now, if there was a Nintendo Switch Pro, I personally feel that we could see that smoothed out to 30 frames per second locked, and we could also see a portable resolution of maybe 560 or maybe even locked at 720p. I think even with docked, maybe we get a nice little bump as well, and locked resolution of 30 frames per second, because there are some dips. Now, how would this affect the actual gameplay of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and the style of game that is? Well, not too much, to be exact. The way that the game is played, it's not like a super precise input game, for example, like a fighting game. And it's not even like more of like an action fighting game or something like that, to where the precise inputs are needed. So when there is slowdown or when there is issues, it doesn't affect things too much, since the game has a auto battling system with button time prompts. So it wouldn't be like it's, oh my gosh, this plays so much better because now I can actually time my inputs and everything. But it would just be nice overall to the gameplay, just to have it look a little bit better on the eyes as a portable style of game, because Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has so much content in there. You're probably going to want to be able to just lie down in bed and play the game. I know I did that, but for some, especially some with some vision problems or just people who just don't want to look at the screen that looks like that, a nice bump in resolution would be great. Now, there is one thing that I do want to mention, is that the game got multiple updates after the original launch, and I think that that did help smooth out performance, and I'm not sure if there was any type of change in the resolution in the graphics. I don't think so, but to me it definitely looked and ran a bit better after the launch of it. After multiple different updates, the game was still very good and playable at launch, but I felt that they did do a good job of adding content and improvements to that base package of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Now, when it comes to Torna The Golden Country, which is the expansion and standalone and also DLC for some, based on how you purchased it, to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I think that this potentially could even be a bigger difference, right? Because you already have that new rendering engine that Takahashi talked about in the game. And for anybody who has played Torna The Golden Country, you can clearly see a nice bump in visuals and also in performance. However, the game is a much smaller scale game than Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because there's not as much titans, there's just not as much areas to go, and there's way less blades, and stuff is just simplified quite a bit. But to me, that actually made the system, in terms of what they were doing with the combat, just more focused and more fun to play overall in many different aspects. And I don't recall seeing a frame rate test and also resolution test with Torna The Golden Country, but based on my own play experience, I feel that it's very similar to what we got with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, 720p, 30 frames per second. It seems like it stays locked in 30 more so than the base game, but at the same time, I don't have any testing equipment or anything like that. But the game definitely looks and runs better overall than Xenoblade Chronicles 2. However, there are some areas where there is slowdown, where the game necessarily doesn't look its best. It definitely seems like they use some type of dynamic resolution, just like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Torna The Golden Country at times. Not in every single area, but at times. But overall, the game just looks cleaner, and I know it runs better. So a Nintendo Switch Pro enhanced version could definitely run better, and I feel with the new rendering, a lot of players will probably go back into Torna The Golden Country or purchase Torna The Golden Country for the first time if Nintendo decided to kind of point that out, that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and also Torna The Golden Country have some nice little enhancements or something, because that's the biggest thing with this Nintendo Switch Pro. Is Nintendo actually going to let people know and market it in that type of way? Are they going to release patches that have updates for this? I'm not so sure about that. They didn't do that with the new Nintendo 3DS. All they really marketed with that was that there's an extra analog nub and the redesign of the system, the screens, stuff like that. They never talked about the performance updates or anything that you could get from that. There wasn't a lot of games that Nintendo did themselves with that. We had Xenoblade Chronicles 3D, there was that game, there was Fire Emblem Warriors, but it wasn't like Nintendo was out there promoting the frame rate bumps and the boost that you got with the new Nintendo 3DS. Now, they could completely change that with the Nintendo Switch Pro, considering that it is a higher powered hybrid system, and in order to sell the Pro, that could be something to where they can push that with certain games. We saw with Labo VR recently, Nintendo is pushing Super Mario Odyssey in addition to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So there could be a change in what they're trying to do with the marketing with their enhanced systems from what they've done in the past, but we just don't know at this point. But either way, I'm excited to see if they have this Nintendo Switch Pro, what games get a patch. I'm not so sure about that. What games just automatically run better because of it. I'm hoping it's more like that, because we can just kind of go back in and say, okay, well, this game runs better on the Nintendo Switch Pro. This game looks a little bit cleaner. And I think games like Doom or Wolfenstein, games that are a little bit more on the graphics heavy side, could definitely look cleaner and run a bit better, especially with the portable mode. And I think that's where most people have the issues with, is with the portable mode and the resolutions and kind of how things look. I haven't had too many issues with it myself, outside of some things with Xenoblade Chronicles, but either way, I think that it is an interesting proposition to see what potentially Nintendo could do and how they're going to tackle this, because this Nintendo Switch Pro seems like it's going to be here. It seems like it's going to be a real thing. I think where people are kind of disagreeing with is how much more powerful the system's going to be, but I'm just excited to see what, or if, it takes advantage with some of my favorite games, which would be stuff like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which already runs at 1080p 60 frames per second, so I don't think there'll be anything there. But stuff like Xenoblade Chronicles, Astral Chain could potentially use it, Fire Emblem Three Houses, which I've spoke about before, so it's interesting nonetheless. I think 2019 is going to be one of the most interesting and surprising years that Nintendo has ever had. So what do you guys think about my little theory with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torna The Golden Country, and a Nintendo Switch Pro? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you guys for the next one. Peace.